Negotiations took 6 weeks. They met on a newly constructed station built jointly by humans and Karathi, a symbol of cooperation between old and new. Every detail was argued, every word examined. But slowly, a treaty took shape. The Treaty of Two Worlds was signed on a morning when Earth's sun was visible through the station windows. Representatives from all 12 council species gathered, along with Earth's delegation. The document was long and complex, but its core principles were simple. Galactic law would be reformed. New protections for children would be added, regardless of species. Provisions for cultural misunderstandings would be included, with education and explanation required before punishment. The death penalty would be removed for minor infractions. Justice would require consideration of intent, not just action. The Galactic Council itself would be restructured. Newer species would have equal voting power with ancient ones. No single species could force their will on others. Decisions would require true consensus, not just majority rule. High Arbiter Quelix, already exiled from his homeworld, was placed under human jurisdiction. He was not executed or imprisoned. Instead, he was assigned to work at a children's hospital on Earth. Every day he would see young lives being saved and protected. Every day he would be reminded of the life he had taken. It was a punishment that would last the rest of his long life. Finally, a memorial would be established on Station Harmony. A statue of a young boy looking up at the stars with wonder in his eyes. The inscription would read, Park Minho. May his memory ensure no child suffers for the pride of empires. When Ambassador Choi Hyunwoo signed the treaty, his hand shook slightly. This was what he had failed to achieve through diplomacy before. Now it was won through force and sacrifice. He wondered if it could have been different, if there had been another way. But the past could not be changed. Only the future could be shaped. With the treaty signed and ratified by all parties, attention turned to the Wraith soldiers. 15,000 enhanced warriors had been awakened for this war. Now that peace had come, what would happen to them? Some, like General Shin Woo-jin, chose to remain in active military service. Earth still needed defenders, and now the galaxy knew that humanity possessed forces that could stand against any threat. Woo-jin became the head of Earth's Strategic Defense Command, ensuring that the Wraith's capabilities would never be forgotten. Colonel Beta-jin took a different path. He became an advisor and trainer, teaching normal human soldiers advanced tactics and strategies. He also served as a liaison to other species' militaries, sharing knowledge and building relationships. The warrior who had destroyed the Tholis fleet now worked to ensure such battles would never be necessary again. Commander Yoon Sora established an intelligence agency dedicated to preventing future injustices. Her Ghost Battalion became investigators and monitors, watching for signs of corruption and abuse across council space. They worked in the shadows, exposing wrongdoing before it could escalate into tragedy. Major Kang Ha-jun surprised everyone by requesting assignment as Earth's ambassador to the reformed Galactic Council. The soldier who had led the assault on Velthar Prime now represented humanity in diplomatic forums. His presence served as a constant reminder. Earth could talk, but Earth could also fight. Captain Ominji founded a training program for diplomatic personnel. She taught them not just cultural sensitivity and negotiation skills, but also how to recognize manipulation and resist intimidation. Diplomacy backed by weakness is just begging, she told her students. Diplomacy backed by strength is negotiation between equals. Admiral Park Jun-ho retired from military service. The man who had commanded Earth's defense during the Battle of the Lunar Periphery wanted peace for his remaining years. He established a foundation in his nephew's name, providing education and opportunities to children across human space. Every scholarship, every program carried Minho's name forward. Captain An Ji-woo made a different choice. She remained on active duty and founded the Sentinel program. Wraith soldiers would be stationed throughout the galaxy, in small teams, protecting those who could not protect themselves. They would focus especially on defending children of all species from harm. Ji-woo's team would be first, showing others how it was done. But before beginning her new assignment, Ji-woo did something she had been planning since the treaty was signed. She traveled to Earth and requested a meeting with Kang Yunbi. Minho's mother had been living in seclusion since her son's death. She had left her diplomatic post and returned to Earth, unable to face the stars that had taken her child from her. When Ji-woo arrived at her small house outside Seoul, Yunbi initially refused to see her. "Tell her I am not here as a soldier," Jiwoo told the aide. "Tell her I am here as someone who failed to save her son, but who ensured his death meant something." Yunbi agreed to meet. They sat in a simple room with tea growing cold between them. For a long time neither spoke. Then Jiwoo broke the silence. "I cannot apologize for the violence we committed. I cannot say it brought your son back. But I can tell you that the galaxy knows his name now. Every species, every world, every child who grows up from this day forward will live under laws shaped by what happened to Park Min-ho. They will never forget what was taken from you. And we will ensure they never take another child in the name of their laws." Yunbi's eyes filled with tears. "Does that make it worth it? Does changing laws bring him back?" "No," Jiwoo said honestly. "Nothing brings him back. But his life and his death have meaning now. The galaxy is different because he existed. That is not justice. That is not fair. But it is something." Yunbi wept, and Jiwoo sat with her, two women bound by grief and rage and something that might eventually become peace. They did not become friends that day. But they understood each other. 5 years after the war, the galaxy had changed in ways both visible and subtle. The Galactic Council operated under new rules, with newer species taking active roles in governance. Trade between Earth and other worlds flourished. Human colonies expanded, welcomed now rather than tolerated. On Station Harmony, the memorial to Park Min-ho was visited by thousands every day. Parents brought their children to see it. Teachers used it as a lesson about the importance of justice tempered with mercy. The small statue of a boy looking at the stars became one of the most recognized images in the galaxy. On Earth, in Seoul, another memorial stood. This one was larger, more elaborate. The statue showed Min-ho as he had been in life, smiling and holding his holographic toy. The stars it projected were real light, visible even during the day. At the base, fresh flowers appeared daily, left by people who had never met the boy but who understood what he represented. Kang Yunbi visited this memorial every week. She would sit on the bench nearby and talk to her son, telling him about the letters she received from parents across the galaxy, thanking him for the safety their children now enjoyed. She told him about the schools and programs built in his name. She told him that he was remembered, that he mattered. Above Earth, ships from a dozen species maintained peaceful orbits. Former enemies had become cautious allies. Former allies had become trusted partners. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through submission to ancient powers, but through the fierce protection of its innocence and the demonstration of what happened when humanity's compassion turned to righteous anger. The Galactic Council had learned a truth that would echo through their histories. Humans could be reasonable, diplomatic, and peaceful, but harm their children, and they would awaken their demons. The sleeping soldiers had returned to their rest now, but the galaxy would never forget they existed. Park Min-ho's name was written in the stars, and the galaxy was forever changed. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so chaotic. Representatives from 12 species shouted over each other, their translator devices struggling to keep up. Some demanded immediate total war against humanity. Others begged for peace negotiations. The rest sat in stunned silence, unable to decide which path was correct. Matriarch Silena of the Karathi watched the chaos with sadness in her ancient eyes. Her species were empaths and philosophers, and she could feel the fear and anger flowing through the chamber like a storm. She raised one hand and slowly the shouting died down. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "we made a mistake. Perhaps the law itself was wrong." The chamber erupted again. What she suggested was unthinkable. Galactic law had stood for 10,000 years, unchanged and unchallenged. It was the foundation of their entire civilization. To question it was to question everything they believed. But then High Arbiter Quellic stood up. The Velthari leader looked different now, thinner, weaker. He had spent 72 hours locked in his office, forced to watch Park Min-ho's death on repeat. The experience had broken something inside him. "I followed the law," Quellic said, his voice barely audible, "but I was wrong. The child was innocent. What we did was not justice. It was murder." The chamber fell into shocked silence. Then the arguments began again, louder and angrier than before. The council was tearing itself apart. While the council debated, a small human ship approached Station Harmony under a white flag of truce. General Shin Woo-jin and Ambassador Choi Hyun-woo boarded together. The soldier and the diplomat, representing both sides of humanity's response. They met matriarch Selena and representatives from the few council species willing to negotiate. The humans presented their terms clearly and without compromise. First, formal recognition that executing Park Min-ho was unjust. Second, galactic law must be amended to prohibit the execution of children under any circumstances. Third, reparations must be paid to the Park family. Fourth, High Arbiter Quelix must face human justice. A Tholis general slammed his clawed hand on the table. And if we refuse? General Shin's expression did not change. Then my soldiers will continue dismantling your military infrastructure until you have nothing left but your pride. And eventually we will take that too. The negotiations stalled. Each side held their position. Days turned into weeks with no progress. But while the diplomats talked, Commander Yoon Sora was working on something else entirely. Her Ghost Battalion had been conducting secret operations throughout Council space. They infiltrated government servers, cracked security systems, and stole classified information. Sora was looking for something specific, and after weeks of searching, she found it. The sacred ritual that Minho had interrupted was not sacred at all. It was a regular council meeting. The Veltari had lied, claiming it was religious specifically to invoke the harshest possible punishment. They had used the situation as a test to see if Earth would accept council authority without question. Minho had died not because of tradition or religion, but because of politics and pride. Sora compiled all the evidence and sent it to every news network in the galaxy. Within hours, the truth was everywhere. The public reaction was immediate and devastating for the Council. Species that had supported the execution now turned against it. Citizens across Council space demanded answers. How many other times had the law been manipulated? How many other innocent beings had died for political convenience? The Velthari government collapsed within 3 days. Quelix was removed from power and exiled. Other council members who had known the truth were forced to resign. The authority that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was crumbling. Back on Earth, the unified government faced its own crisis. Public opinion was split down the middle. Half the population wanted to press the advantage, to force complete submission from the council. The other half feared that continued aggression would turn humanity into the very monsters they were fighting against. Director Lee Deho called a meeting with the Wraith commanders. They gathered in a secure facility, these enhanced soldiers who had waged a war across the stars. Deho asked them a simple question: "What do you think we should do?" The commanders looked at each other. Major Kang Hajun spoke first. "We are weapons. We did what weapons do, but weapons do not make policy. That is for others to decide." Colonel Beitajan nodded. "We have shown them our strength. We have proven they cannot dismiss us. But continuing to fight when we have already won would make us tyrants, not liberators." Commander Yoon Sora added, "We exposed their corruption. We forced them to see their own failures. The choice of what happens next should be theirs, not ours." Captain Ominji was silent for a moment, then said, "We broke them. The question is, do we want to rebuild them, or do we want to rule over ruins?" Finally, Captain An Ji-woo stood. She had led the first attack. She had looked High Arbiter Quelix in the eyes and shown him what he had done. She spoke quietly but clearly. "We were made to be weapons during humanity's darkest time. We have done what weapons do, but Park Min-ho would not want us to become executioners. He was a child who wanted to explore the stars and learn about other species. He wanted wonder, not conquest. If we continue this war beyond what is necessary, we dishonor his memory." The other commanders nodded in agreement. General Shin Woo-jin looked at Director Daiho and said, "We have given you the leverage you need for peace. Use it. End this while we still hold the moral high ground." Daiho took their recommendation to the unified Earth government. After intense debate, the decision was made. Earth would accept a negotiated peace, but only on their terms. They would not compromise on the core demands, but they would stop the military campaign if those demands were met. Ambassador Choi Hyun-woo returned to Station Harmony with the offer. The council, weakened and divided, had little choice but to accept. They were facing rebellions in their own territories. Their military was in shambles. Their reputation was destroyed. They needed peace as much as Earth did, but Hyun-woo made one thing absolutely clear. "This peace is not forgiveness. We will work with you to build something better, but we will never forget what you did. Park Min-ho's name is written in our history now, and it will be written in yours as well. Let it remind you that laws without justice are just tyranny with paperwork. Matriarch Selena accepted the terms on behalf of the council. She looked at Hyunwoo with her ancient, sad eyes and said, "We have learned a painful lesson. We hope we are worthy of the chance you are giving us." "Time will tell," Hyunwoo replied. "Time will tell." The war had reached its turning point. Now came the harder part, building peace from the ashes of conflict and ensuring that no other child, human or alien, would die because of ancient pride and corrupt laws. The Velthari homeworld had not seen war in over 2,000 years. Their military existed mainly for show, parading at ceremonies and maintaining old traditions. Their defense systems were advanced but rarely tested. They had grown comfortable behind the protection of the Galactic Council. That comfort ended when Commander Yoon Sora's Ghost Battalion arrived. They did not announce themselves. Using stolen transport codes acquired through methods the Velthari would never understand, Sora's ships materialized inside the planet's orbital defense network. The Velthari security systems registered the arrivals but tagged them as authorized vessels. By the time anyone realized the mistake, it was too late. Sora's soldiers moved through the defense platforms like shadows. They did not destroy anything. They did not need to. Instead, they uploaded viruses into the computer systems, inserted backdoors into the security networks, and disabled the weapons without firing a single shot. Within 30 minutes, every orbital defense platform around Velthar Prime was under human control, or rendered completely useless. The Velthari military finally realized they were under attack, but they had no idea how to respond. Their sensors showed human ships, but how had they gotten past the defenses? Where were the explosions? Why were none of their weapons responding? Then Major Kang Haijun's Hammer Battalion descended from orbit in drop pods. The Velthari had never seen anything like it. Hundreds of pods screaming through the atmosphere, burning trails across the sky, heading straight for the capital city. Their target was the Velthari Military Command Center, a massive fortress where High Arbiter Quelix maintained his administrative office. The Velthari military scrambled to respond. Ground forces mobilized, aircraft launched. Artillery systems powered up. They were ready to defend their homeworld against this attack, but they were not ready for Wraith soldiers. Hajun's troops emerged from their pods already moving at full speed. The Velthari soldiers fired their weapons, but the humans were too fast. Enhanced reflexes allowed them to dodge incoming fire. Cybernetic targeting systems let them shoot with perfect accuracy while running. Neural implants meant they coordinated without speaking, moving as one unified force. The battle lasted 3 hours. To the Velthari, it felt like 3 days. Everywhere they tried to establish a defense line, the humans broke through. Every time they thought they had the attackers surrounded, the humans would disappear and reappear somewhere else. It was not just superior technology. It was superior soldiers operating at a level the Velthari could not match. When the command center fell, the Velthari military surrendered. They had lost 2,000 soldiers. The humans had lost 17. Captain An Ji-woo walked through the captured fortress until she found High Arbiter Quelix's office. The insect-like alien was huddled in a corner, his translator device clicking nervously. Guards brought him before Ji-woo, forcing him to stand. Ji-woo looked at him for a long moment. Then she pulled out a small holographic projector and placed it on his desk. She activated it and the image of Park Min-ho appeared. The recording showed his final moments playing on repeat. The boy's fear, his mother's screams. The moment his life ended. "Watch it," Ji-woo said calmly. "Understand what you took from us." She ordered the guards to lock Quelix in his office with the hologram running continuously. Then she left, broadcasting a message across all Velthari communication channels. This was not proportional punishment. This was a warning. Earth remembers. The Wraith forces left Velthar Prime as efficiently as they had arrived. They did not occupy the planet. They did not kill civilians. They simply demonstrated that they could reach any target they wanted whenever they wanted. The Velthari had thought themselves safe behind their ancient laws and powerful alliances. Now they knew better, but the Wraiths were not done. Over the next 3 weeks, they struck at 27 military installations across Council space. Orbital shipyards that built Council warships suddenly experienced mysterious system failures. Supply lines for military forces were disrupted by perfectly timed raids. Encrypted communication networks that had been secure for centuries were hacked and rendered useless. Every Species that had voted for Minho's execution found their military capabilities systematically dismantled. The attacks were precise and professional. No civilians were harmed. No cultural sites were damaged. The Wraiths targeted only military and government infrastructure, but they did so with such efficiency that the galaxy watched in growing fear. The 12 species of the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Some argued for negotiation. Others demanded retaliation. The Tholis, a race of reptilian warriors who prided themselves on their military strength, volunteered to crush the human insurgency. They dispatched their 5th Fleet to Earth space. 230 warships, the pride of Tholis military might. They would teach these upstart humans a lesson about challenging ancient powers. Admiral Park Junho, commander of Earth's defense fleet, watched them coming on his sensors. He was Minho's uncle, and he had volunteered for this duty. He had 47 ships under his command. The odds were impossible, but he also had Colonel Bei Taejin and the Titan Battalion. The Battle of the Lunar Periphery began when the Tholis fleet entered human space. They came in traditional formation, confident in their numerical superiority. They expected the humans to try to flee or surrender. Instead, Earth's ships charged straight at them. The Tholis were confused at first. Then they realized the human ships were performing maneuvers that should have been impossible. Jumps at angles that would require calculations taking minutes executed in seconds. Defensive patterns that adapted in real time to incoming fire. It was as if the ships themselves were alive and thinking. They were not, but the Wraiths piloting them might as well have been. Enhanced reflexes and neural implants allowed them to control the ships with inhuman precision. They calculated trajectories faster than any AI. They predicted enemy movements and responded before those movements even began. Then Taejin's assault craft launched. While the space battle raged, his Titan battalion boarded Tholis ships mid-combat. They cut through airlocks, blasted through bulkheads, and engaged in close quarters fighting inside the enemy vessels. The Tholis were warriors, trained and experienced. But the Wraiths were weapons designed and perfected. The fighting was brutal but one-sided. The Tholis found themselves outmatched in every way that mattered. When it was over, the 5th Fleet was destroyed. Only a handful of Tholis ships survived, and those only because Admiral Park let them go. He sent a message with the survivors. Tell the Council that Earth is not accepting visitors. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. The Tholis had been considered the strongest military power in Council space. They had been annihilated by a force 1/5 their size. If Earth could do that, what else were they capable of? Species that had never heard of humans before now learned about the ghost soldiers who could not be stopped. Trading partners distanced themselves from the Council. The authority that had stood for 10,000 years was being questioned for the first time, and the Wraith forces continued their campaign, target by target, reminding the galaxy that humanity's patience had limits, and those limits had been crossed. The cryopod made a hissing sound as it began to drain. Inside, Captain An Ji-woo felt consciousness returning slowly, like climbing out of a deep, dark well. Her enhanced body systems activated one by one, heart rate increasing, neural implants connecting, muscle tissue responding. She had been asleep for 143 years. When the pod finally opened, Ji-woo's eyes snapped open. She saw technicians in white coats standing around her, monitoring equipment and checking readouts. One of them, a young woman, smiled nervously. "Welcome back, Captain. Please remain still while we complete the revival sequence." Ji-woo said nothing. She lay perfectly still as they ran their tests, but her mind was already working. She had been part of the Wraith program, humanity's secret weapon during the Unification Wars. Soldiers genetically modified and enhanced with cybernetic implants. They were created to be perfect warriors, able to process information faster, react quicker, and fight harder than any normal human. When the wars ended and Earth unified, they had become too dangerous for peacetime, too powerful to be allowed to roam freely. But humanity could not bring itself to kill them, so they were put in cryo-sleep, hidden away in secret facilities, preserved in case they were ever needed again. Now apparently they were needed. After the medical checks were complete, Ji-woo was led to a briefing room. Director Lee Dae-ho was waiting for her, along with several military officials. They showed her recordings of what had happened on Station Harmony. They showed her Park Min-ho, a smiling 8-year-old boy. They showed her his mother's face. They showed her the moment the Galactic Council voted to execute a child. Ji-woo's expression did not change as she watched. but the monitoring equipment showed her heart rate spike by 300%. "How many are you waking?" she asked. "All 6 facilities. 15,000 soldiers total," Daeho replied. Jiwoo nodded once. "Good. We will need them all." Over the next week, all 6 hidden facilities came online. On the Moon, in the asteroid belt, on Mars, and in 3 locations on Earth, cryopods opened one after another. The Wraiths were returning to the world. Major Kang Hajun woke in the Luna facility. His specialization was heavy weapons and orbital assault. They called him Hammer because of the way he struck hard and fast from above. When he learned why he had been awakened, he simply checked his equipment and prepared to deploy. Commander Yoon Sora woke in the Mars facility. She was a master of infiltration and espionage, able to slip through enemy territory like a shadow. Her call sign was Ghost, and it fit her perfectly. After her briefing, she immediately began studying the Galactic Council's security systems, looking for weaknesses. Colonel Bae Taejin woke in the asteroid belt facility. He was an expert in armored warfare and defensive operations. Strong, immovable, unbreakable. They called him Titan because once he took a position, nothing could move him. He spent his first day awake training with the new equipment, getting used to weapons that had been invented while he slept. Captain Oh Minji woke on Earth. Her specialty was psychological warfare and interrogation. She understood how to break enemy morale, how to make opponents doubt themselves. Her call sign was Viper. Because her attacks were subtle but deadly, she studied the profiles of every Galactic Council member, learning their weaknesses. General Shin Woo-jin woke last. He had designed the Wraith program, and he was the supreme tactical coordinator. If the Wraiths were weapons, he was the hand that wielded them. They called him Warden because he kept watch over all the others. When he woke, he immediately began planning their campaign. 2 weeks after Park Min-ho's death, all the Wraith commanders gathered at Global Defense Initiative headquarters in Geneva. The room was filled with military leaders from every nation on Earth, but the Wraith stood apart. They were different, and everyone could sense it. These were not normal soldiers. These were something else entirely. Director Lee Daeho presented the situation. Earth had officially withdrawn from the Galactic Council. All diplomatic ties were severed. Human colonies were facing economic sanctions. Several alien species had closed their borders to human ships. The galaxy expected Earth to eventually submit and return to the Council, accepting that their laws were absolute. The Galactic Council had even sent a message. It said, "Your grief is understood, but the law was followed. Earth must accept the judgment and return to civilized discourse." When the message finished playing, General Shin Woo-jin stood up. He was tall, gray-haired, despite the enhancements that kept his body young and strong. He looked at Director Daeho and asked one question. "Rules of engagement?" Daeho looked around the room at the representatives from Earth's unified government. Then he answered, "This order comes from every nation on Earth unified for the first time in our history. You are authorized to strike military and government targets of Council species. Collateral damage to civilians is prohibited. Make them understand what they took from us. Make them remember the name Park Min-ho." Captain An Ji-woo stood. "When do we deploy?" 6 hours. We have identified priority targets." The briefing continued for another 3 hours. The Wraiths asked questions, studied maps, reviewed intelligence. They were thorough and professional. These were not hot-headed soldiers looking for revenge. They were calculating, methodical, and extremely dangerous. When the briefing ended, the Wraiths dispersed to their units. In training facilities across Earth and Luna, 15,000 enhanced soldiers prepared for deployment. They checked weapons that could punch through armor plating. They tested suits that could withstand vacuum and extreme temperatures. They reviewed their targets and memorized their objectives. In one of the training bays, Jiwoo watched her company run combat drills. These were her people, soldiers she had fought beside during the unification wars. They moved with inhuman precision, their enhanced reflexes making them blur when they moved at full speed. They could calculate trajectories in microseconds. They could coordinate without speaking, their neural implants allowing silent communication. Someone had sent her the full footage of what happened to Min-ho. She had watched it several times, studying every detail. She saw the fear in the boy's eyes. She saw him reaching for his mother. She saw the moment his small body went limp. Jiwoo thought about what they were about to do. The Wraiths had been created during dark times when humanity fought against itself. They had done terrible things in the name of unification. When peace finally came, many people wanted them destroyed. Others argued they should be preserved just in case. Now that just in case had arrived, the galaxy had hurt humanity. They had killed a child and called it justice. And now Earth was sending its demons to respond. Lock and load, Jiwoo told her squad. We are going to war. The soldiers responded with a unified sound of weapons being armed and equipment being secured. No one cheered. No one looked excited. They were professionals doing a job. But that job was about to remind the galaxy why humanity did not need thousands of years of history to be feared. The Wraiths were awake, and the reckoning was coming. The stars looked beautiful through the observation window of Station Harmony. 8-year-old Park Min-ho pressed his face against the glass, watching ships from different alien worlds dock at the massive space station. His mother, Kang Yoonbi, smiled as she watched her son's excitement. She worked here as a diplomat, helping Earth talk with other species in the galaxy. Min-ho held a small toy in his hands. When he pressed the button, it showed pictures of Earth's night sky with all the stars and constellations. He had brought it from home to show the aliens he met. Most of them thought it was cute. Some of the aliens even gave him small gifts in return. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 15 years ago. Humans were the newcomers in a galaxy full of civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. Yoonbi's job was to help these ancient species understand humanity and help humans understand them. It was not always easy. Different species had different rules and customs. Today was an important day. The Galactic Council was meeting to discuss trade agreements. Yoonbi had to attend, but she could not leave Min-ho alone in their quarters. So she brought him along, telling him to stay in the waiting area and not wander off. Min-ho promised he would be good. He sat in the waiting area for almost an hour, playing with his toy and watching the different aliens walk past. There were tall ones, short ones with scales, ones with fur, and some that looked like floating jellyfish. He found them all fascinating, but 8-year-old boys get bored easily. When his toy's battery died, Min-ho decided to explore just a little bit. He walked down a corridor he had never seen before. The walls were decorated with beautiful symbols that glowed softly. He did not know these symbols marked a restricted area. At the end of the corridor, Min-ho found a large door that was slightly open. Curious, he peeked inside. The room was huge and dark, lit only by strange blue lights. In the center, several insect-like aliens stood in a circle, making clicking sounds. They were the Veltari, and they were performing what they called the Communion, a ceremony they claimed was sacred. Min-ho did not know this. He just thought it looked interesting. He stepped inside to get a better look, his shoes making a soft sound on the floor. The clicking stopped immediately. All the Velthari turned to look at him with their multiple eyes. The largest one, called High Arbiter Quelix, made a loud shrieking sound. Within seconds, armed guards rushed into the room. They grabbed Min-ho roughly and the boy cried out in fear. The commotion brought Yoonbi running. When she saw guards holding her son, she screamed and tried to reach him. Ambassador Choi Hyun-woo, Earth's senior diplomat, arrived moments later. He demanded to know what was happening. High Arbiter Quelix pointed one of his long fingers at Min-ho. His translator device made his clicking sounds into words humans could understand. This human child has desecrated our sacred communion. This is a crime under Galactic Law, Article 847. There must be punishment. Hyun-woo felt his blood run cold. He knew that law. He knew what proportional punishment meant for desecration of sacred rites. He is just a child, Hyun-woo said, trying to keep his voice calm. He did not know. He meant no harm. Please, we can resolve this another way. But Quelix would not listen. He demanded the Galactic Council convene immediately to judge the matter. Within an hour, representatives from all 12 species of the Council gathered in the main chamber. Yoonbi held Min-ho close, the boy now understanding that something terrible was happening. Hyun-woo stood before the Council and pleaded. He explained that humans were still new to galactic society. Their children did not yet understand all the customs and rules. Min-ho was innocent, curious, nothing more. He begged them to show mercy, to choose a different punishment, anything but what the law traditionally demanded. Some council members seemed sympathetic. The Karathi representative, matriarch Selena, spoke about the importance of considering intent, not just action. But the Velthari were insistent, and many other species sided with them. They said the law was clear and must be followed, or else the entire system would break down. The vote was called. Yunbi held Minho tighter, whispering that everything would be okay, though she did not believe her own words. Yunwu watched as one by one the council members voted. 9 species voted for proportional punishment. 2 species abstained, unwilling to commit either way. Only Earth voted against it. The decision was final. Under galactic law, the punishment for desecration of sacred rites was death. Yunbi's scream echoed through the chamber. She fought against the guards who tried to pull Minho away from her. Hyunwoo shouted protests, citing other laws, demanding appeals, anything to stop this. But the council had decided, and their decision was absolute. Minho was terrified now, crying for his mother. He did not understand what he had done wrong. He had just wanted to see what the aliens were doing. He had not meant to make anyone angry. The Velthari brought out a device called a neural disruptor. They said it was painless, that the child would simply stop existing in an instant, as if that made it better. As if that made murdering a child acceptable. Yunwoo tried one last time. You are making a terrible mistake. This will not be forgotten. This will not be forgiven. High Arbiter Quelix responded coldly. The law has been followed. Justice has been served. They activated the device. In less than a second, Park Minho stopped breathing. His small body went limp in the guard's arms. Yunbi collapsed, her screams turning into sobs that sounded like they came from somewhere deep and broken inside her. The council chamber fell silent. Some members looked uncomfortable. Others seemed satisfied that their precious law had been upheld. The Velthari began to file out, considering the matter closed. Ambassador Choi Hyunwoo stood perfectly still, looking at the small body of the boy he had failed to protect. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but clear enough for everyone to hear. You have made a grave mistake. Earth will remember this. Then he knelt beside Yunbi, helping her up, supporting her as she cradled her dead son one last time. The other council members dispersed, returning to their quarters, already moving on to other matters. To them, this was just another application of their ancient laws. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. News of Minho's death reached Earth within hours. The response was immediate and unified in a way humanity had never been before. Every nation, every city, every community erupted in rage. Protests filled the streets. Governments held emergency meetings. The entire planet spoke with one voice for the first time in human history. And in a secret facility deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Director Lee Daeho received a message from Earth's unified government. It contained only 4 words. Wake them all up. Daeho walked to his communication console and sent orders to 6 hidden locations across the solar system. Facilities that had been silent for over a century suddenly came to life. Inside thousands of cryopods, frozen soldiers began to thaw. The wraiths were waking up, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming.